Hello, I'm Lucy from Bookshanks and I'm here today to talk about the Orwell Prize. Hello, welcome back to our channel, where this week I found myself in pretty much, I think possibly, an unprecedented position, because actually I had nothing to read, like literally nothing on my shelf that I was going to read. I finished going through the books that I was judging for the quarterfinals of the BookTube Prize, which I shall link down below. And as I'm kind of not the sort of person who just buys books, I sort of only buy them when I have the intention of reading them straight away, and I hadn't really been paying attention. And also, kind of, there's not been a lot of big new releases out really that everyone's been talking about that I've noticed, unless I've missed them. I found myself basically with nothing to read. So started having a look around, and it came to light that I had already worked my way through pretty much half of the Orwell Prize longlist. So I thought, you know what? In for a penny, in for a pound, I may as well read the rest. So what I'm going to do in this video today is talk you through what the longlist is, tell you what I've already read, tell you what I plan to do, and probably actually should start with a little bit about the prize, shouldn't I? Because it's one of the less well-known ones, I think. It's a bit smaller. I was going to say it's niche, but actually it's not. It's basically named after, obviously, George Orwell, and it is a UK-based prize that has fiction categories, non-fiction categories, and journalism categories, and focuses on political writing, bearing in mind Orwell's quote about his desire to make political writing into an art form. So actually, it's pretty much nailed on my taste really, because I love my books, you know, with some politics in, with a real message and with something to say. So, you know, it kind of made sense that I would like this list, hopefully. And actually, I have to say, I was too late off the mark to go for like the whole non-fiction long list, but it looks absolutely brilliant. Go look at it. And next year, maybe I have to be a bit more organised and get on the case for that, because I know that's also something Scott would really love to do too. But this one, just talking about the fiction, no Scott, all about me. Right, so, shall I start by just taking you through? I'll start with the books that I've already read, and then we'll move on. So, first of all, everyone's going to have seen this one, An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. It is currently shortlisted for the Women's Prize. I think it might win. I've got a hunch that it might win. So this is a dual narrative set in America that follows a married couple where the husband is sent to jail for a crime that the wife knows he definitely didn't commit. And it's a really good book. I enjoyed it. And actually, I should say, all the books that I've already read, I will link the reviews to down below so you can find out sort of my whole thoughts. But for me, the strength of this book was all around how Tayari Jones looked at incarceration as a much wider issue than the person who's incarcerated, I guess. How it just devastates, you know, entire families, entire communities when one person goes to jail. So, really liked that book. Tick, read that one already. Second one, I liked too, Red Clocks. I read this last month, and this is a book that looks at reproductive rights in America. So, it's a dystopian set in an America where reproductive rights are severely under attack. They've been really heavily regulated, and it follows a group of women who are each trying to navigate this sort of new legislation in their own ways. And it's one that's super timely and I really enjoyed as well. Next on the long list is In Our Mad and Furious City by Guy Gunnarante, which was longlisted for the Booker Prize last year, and I really liked this one too. It is set in London and follows three young men who live in an inner city high-rise estate, and against the backdrop of sort of the racial tensions there, so each of the young men has a different background, sort of a different racial background. They're grappling with radicalisation in the local mosques. They're grappling with sort of being ostracised politically, and the poverty that they have to encounter. And I thought it was a really good depiction of sort of modern London and sort of the inner city challenges that happen. My one criticism, if I had it, was that when they sort of started to look at the race relations, I thought it could have been pushed further. So Gunnar felt to me like he was backing off a little bit just at the points when I really wanted him to lean in harder. But overall, really liked that book too. The other book that was on the Booker Prize longlist last year was the very shiny Sabrina. Now, Nick Transo, Sabrina. This is a graphic novel that follows the story of a young woman who has been abducted. So actually it's not really her story. It's her ex-boyfriend and the people around her who are left in the wake of her absence. And it's basically talking about misinformation. So how things can spiral beyond the realms of what they really are and the impacts that then has. And, you know, did I like it? I found it interesting. And I liked it for its value, but I didn't necessarily, and its message, but I didn't necessarily enjoy it. But then I'm not really a big reader of graphic novels anyway, so, you know, not necessarily an entirely fair criticism. Now, the next two books on the long list are not ones that I've read, but they're ones that Scott has read. One of them he really rated, the other one left him cold. Usually when we do these prizes, we divvy them up between us, but I'm going to try my hardest to get through these two as well. Because it's interesting really, isn't it? But we shall see, because actually I should have said up front, the Orwell Prize are a little bit mercurial when it comes to dates. So by the time this comes out, the shortlist might be out. Who knows? They said it was coming out in May. And the overall winner, I think, is going to be announced in or around the 25th of June. So it's a race against a date that I don't really know. Anyway, you don't care. The next one, Booker Prize winner, Milkman by Anna Burns. So the story of a young woman in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. Scott really liked this one. So did lots of other people because it won the Booker. But also lots of people didn't like it as well. But Scott thinks it's going to be one I rate, so we shall see. Unfortunately, one he did not rate was Ordinary People by Diana Evans, which is the story of two couples, I believe, in London whose marriages are disintegrating against the background of 2008, Obama's presidential election, and the financial crisis. I believe Scott was seriously underwhelmed, so we shall see what happens. Now we're on to the books that neither of us have read, and they're really interesting. They're really interesting, and they're so diverse. I like the look of them a lot. First up, we have Silence is My Mother Tongue by Suleiman Adonia. Now this is set in a African refugee camp, I believe, and it follows a young woman or a teenage woman called Saba, who is there with her mother and her brother, and she is trying to navigate life in this camp and sort of I think, you know, escape this camp, and it's about mostly, I think, her relationship with her brother, who is a mute, and so yeah, don't know much more about that one. Next up, we've got The Ice Migration by Jacqueline Crooks. Now this, I believe, is a short story collection which follows a Jamaican family, sort of the different generations of a Jamaican family from sort of 1900-ish through to modern day, as they leave Jamaica and spread out across the globe. So that one, short stories, will be good to have something a little bit different. Oh, the next two are kind of similar. So it'll be really interesting to sort of compare and contrast. Well, they appear kind of similar anyway. And interesting as well, I think they're all interesting, but I'm particularly interested in these two because they're British ones. They're sort of really about British politics, I guess, which at the moment, it's just fascinating, isn't it? This one is Perfidious Albion by Sam Byers. Now, the first thing I did when I got this book was look up what perfidious meant. I knew what Albion meant. It is the oldest known name of Great Britain, I believe, which I knew because I grew up with Plymouth Albion as my local rugby team. But perfidious, that was beyond me. So it means treacherous. It means sort of subtly underhanded and duplicitous, I believe. So treacherous Britain. It is a post-Brexit novel about a small town where the sense of peace and harmony is crumbling. I believe it's quite a humorous book. It's a satire, and I've heard really good things about Sam Byers. What was his last book called? Can't remember. Idiocracy, something like that. Scott was tried to buy it repeatedly, didn't quite make it in the end. So anyway, we'll see. That one looks quite good. Similar, sort of, apparently, looking like, is Ionopolis by Glenn James Brown. Now, this is a book set in working class Britain. I don't think it's like explicitly Brexity Britain, but it is a book that I believe follows several generations of a family as they try to navigate this working class community, which is just sort of succumbing to poverty and decay and falling apart. And I think that that's basically the main theme of it, is sort of like how communities can survive when the infrastructure, I guess, is crumbling around them. Whether communities can survive. I don't know, we shall see. But anyway, I kind of like those two books make like a little pair. Right, next up we have Brother by David Chandra, and this is set in Toronto, Canada, and it follows a pair of brothers following, I believe, or to one of whom happens a catastrophic event, which I don't know what it is, and how their relationship persists through that, I believe, and their relationship with their mother. They are immigrants, I think, or perhaps second generation immigrants from the West Indies. So again, it's looking at sort of the social context of immigration. That's it. That's all I know. I don't know where I was going with that. And the last book is House of Stone by Newberry Rosa Tushuma. Now this book, look at it, isn't it really lovely? Other than my fingerprints, it's a beautiful book. This book is set, I believe, at the end of colonial Rhodesia, when the new nation of Zimbabwe is being formed. A young man is missing and his parents do not know whether he has run away or whether he has come to a much stickier fate at the hands of the government. And I love the sound of this one. It sounds really, really good. Do you know what? They all sound pretty good, don't they? That's the end. That's the long list. So I've read 4. Collectively, our house has read 6. I will try and read those other 2. And then it's 6 still to read in basically 3 weeks. We're aiming for 3 weeks, which I think should be doable because some of them are only little tiddlers. And even some of the tiddlers have giant print as well, giant print. So if you've read any of these books, I would love to know your thoughts. If you've read any of the ones that I haven't read, I'd particularly love to know your thoughts on that. Maybe where I should start and what you thought. And if you want to read with me, get your skates on, but you're more than welcome. I would love to chat with you. In the meantime, I think that's pretty much it. I'll be back when I've read some of them. I'll be back again when I've read some, and I hope you have a lovely week. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.